The new Last Stand game type is out on the public test server for 1.6 and I was going to make a video about it, how it works and if it's any good and all that stuff, but there are more important things to talk about. Gigantic problems with the game that have been there since release day, and I truly believe that if we want this game to retain its player base after patch 1.6, then changes have to be made. Not next patch, not a few weeks in patch 1.6 with a band-aid hotfix, but right now, here on the PTS, before patch 1.6 officially comes out. That all sounds pretty dramatic. I know, but trust me when I say that it is really that bad. It is so bad that heavily utilizing the, in my opinion, broken mechanics has resulted in me and my team going into a game of Last Stand, which has normalized PvP if I may remind you, and sit in the enemy team spawn on a smart cover with 90% all damage resilience, a heal on a 5-second cooldown, which fully overheals by the way, killing targets not even 2 to 3 seconds after they spawn. These are the results on the scoreboard of those games, where many players on the opposing team just kept leaving because they kept getting killed, and where the top players on the opposing team did not even manage to break 10,000 points because they were looking at the dead screen more than that they were playing. The fact that you can on purposely not take certain capture points in Last Stand and set up at specific locations where the enemy team can spawn, that is already bad enough, but it is a Last Stand specific issue. The rest, however, it has nothing to do with Last Stand. You can do this in the Dark Zone, or you can even do it in PvE missions if you just want to cheese the content and want to get your exotic caches really fast. And I'm willing to bet that you can even do it to a greater extent, that's simply because your gear is not normalized. Now, there are many parts of this problem. It cannot just be traced back to one thing. The only thing that really matters is that it results in a bad PvP experience for everybody, because either both teams in Last Stand actually know what they're doing, and you have two teams both sitting in smart cover, both using sniper rifles, while neither team ever really gets a kill. Or you have a group of players that know what they're doing on one side, and then on the other side you have a bunch of casual players coming at you with their SMG or their LMG or their proudly min-max defense set, only to realize that they don't really do any damage and that they get folded over in less than a second. It is simple math, but it is a bad PvP experience, which is very bad in a PvP focused update. Now what I'm going to do for this video is split it up in 4 topics. 4 main core issues that I think need to be addressed right now on this PTS before patch 1.6 goes live, and with some of my proposed solutions to this. The first topic that I will be covering is the damage resilience, the second one will be skill cooldowns, the third one will be stat roll balance, and then at the end I want to go over ways to abuse the low tick rate servers, which is a very, very big thing on PC. Let's begin. Damage resilience has been a topic ever since the game came out. It has always been a problem. For example, armor has always been best in slot pretty much since forever. The power of smart cover has also been a very big issue in the past, and now with patch 1.6 we're finally addressing talents such as critical save and on the move that also provide the player with insane damage resilience. The thing is that none of the stuff that Massive has done so far has actually prevented this from being a real big issue. Even though many players praise patch 1.4 as the patch that made everything right, I don't really think that's the thing. Don't get me wrong, patch 1.4 was good and it did a lot of good things for a game. But the only reason why things such as the smart cover weren't used anymore is because the electronics and the skill power scaling in general was just really, really bad. That's why you didn't see it that often. But the damage resilience mechanic, that was still in the game, and it still is in the game to this day. And now that players have been asking for more build diversity, and now that the developers have changed skill power into something that doesn't have a super shitty scaling, those same issues that plagued patch 1.3 and before, those issues are coming back. That is because, again, patch 1.4 didn't remove those issues from the game, it merely made part of the game's build options so bad that most players didn't bother going with it. I mentioned it multiple times back then, and I still believe that to this day, that the only way to get rid of these mechanics where players all of a sudden are super tanky is to get rid of damage resilience altogether. It isn't just smart cover that we're talking about either. Even in the normalized PvP, you can go with the mobile cover. You can of course also go with the smart cover. You have the booster shot, you have critical save if you need it. You have performance mods which can increase damage resilience, and you can stack all those things together. You can get a couple million toughness in normalized PvP just as well if you know how to utilize the mechanics. To prove to you that it's not all about smart cover, we can take this example where we nerfed the smart cover so heavily that at 400k skill power, it only gives you 25% damage resilience. That is a gigantic nerf down from 75%, the way that it currently is. Even with Smart Cover only providing 25% damage resilience, the whole damage resilience mechanic would be just as much of an issue. Simply add a few performance mods, that brings you 12% extra, then you have your teammate with the mobile cover, that's another 20. He of course also has the performance mods for mobile cover damage resilience. That is another 16%, then you have the booster shot, that's another 15%, and oh shit! We are already sitting at 88% all damage resilience, which pretty much makes us impossible to kill. Even a hacker, which can empty an entire magazine on top of your head in a split second, does not have the damage required to kill you if you have 80 to 90% all damage resilience. Simply pop Survivor Link, then pop Critical Save and Booster Shot and just burst him down before your buffs get removed. Now if an RPM hacker is unable to kill you because he doesn't have the damage required to do so, that is the sign of a broken mechanic. And for anyone that's not willing to see that, well, we're done talking here. And again, it is not just Smart Cover. Even if we take away Smart Cover from the game, we remove it and we remove the mods that come with it. Then, if we're sitting on mobile cover, we're still sitting at 51% damage resilience, 71% if we were to pop a medkit. Now this is of course not resulting in millions upon millions amounts of toughness, but you will probably sit at around 1.5 million or something like that, and that is enough to face tank 2 or 3 people who are constantly giving you headshots. Another example would also be with the Survivor Link, which comes with 50% all damage resilience. And because Skill Haste now has a full effect on signature skills, you can literally pop a Survivor Link every minute. So there you go, Survivor Link plus Critical Save. Again, 70% resilience, you cannot die. It isn't just one skill that is the problem, it isn't just Smart Cover or Critical Save. It isn't just the Survivor Link or just on the move. The issue lies with damage resilience, that has to go as a whole. I like the idea of certain skills and bonuses giving you more survivability, but here I come again and I sound like a broken record at this point. But you need to make those survivability bonuses additive, make them work like health. An armor bar is what I've proposed many times before, but you can go with shields. You can go with an extension of the health bar, maybe a second health bar with a different color. Maybe you can make a few changes to some talents. Let Critical Save give you 30% more healing to the medkit if you proc it in the last segment. Let On the Move give you a shield worth 20% of your health bar, which then cannot stack but it can be refreshed. I really do not care what options you decide to go with, but pick one and get rid of damage resilience. That's all I'm gonna say about this. Second thing I want to go over are the skill cooldowns. The problem here is very simple, so is the solution, so I will not go too in depth with it. Basically, in a division, the cooldowns of skills, they get reduced with more and more skill power. And I think that this is a very bad idea. Why, you ask? Well, because it basically means that with more and more skill power, your skills will not only get stronger, they will not only do more damage and heal players for more health, but they can also be used at shorter and shorter intervals, which makes baiting skills and poking at the enemy almost pointless. It makes counterplay near impossible and it results in scenarios that cannot possibly be balanced. For this, I want you to take a MOBA game in mind. I'm sure many of you have either played one, seen gameplay of it, or know how it works in general. It's a 5v5 arena style with different champions and heroes. And all of these characters can level up and get stronger as the game goes on, much like in a division with gear score. You get stat boosts every time that you increase your level, which means your health goes up, your damage per second goes up. You generally get a lot stronger. However, the one thing that never ever increases, or decreases per level I should say, is the cooldowns on your abilities. Yes, your abilities will do more damage per level, but unless there are some special items or talents that you have unlocked, the cooldown of an ability never changes. Take this for example, if the cooldown of X ability would be lowered by even half a second every time that a character levels up in these MOBA games, then at the end of the game everybody would be spamming their Q, W and E keys and the game would look like a complete and utter mess. And that is what the division is right now, it's a complete and utter mess. A heal or a smart cover on a 5-second cooldown, how do you counter that? Well, I know, maybe with a Seeker Mine or a Sticky Flashbang on a 5-second cooldown, but that's not a very good experience. We're going back to spamming skills. To give you another example of how ridiculous this actually is, I want you to imagine that firearms, on top of adding weapon damage, would also increase your rate of fire and your reload speed. It sounds weird, but it's the exact same concept. You would not only deal more damage with your weapon, it would not only be more effective at what it does, but you would also be able to shoot with an RPM of 2000 and reload in half a second. Basically, do that increased amount of damage at a higher interval. Can you imagine what the game would be like if firearms actually did that? I can tell you, it would allow you to go toe-on-toe with somebody stacking skill power for damage resilience and short cooldowns. But that's just another example of how broken the resilience actually is. What I truly believe needs to be done to all the skills in the game is that they need to have a fixed cooldown, which individually per skill mod can be tweaked by the developers. Let's say a heal has a 40-second cooldown, a flashbang sticky has a 26-second cooldown, things like that. And have the skill power make those things significantly more effective, but not decrease the cooldown. So yes, heals get stronger, sticky bombs do more damage, CC effects, they could last longer, but the cooldown of a skill remains the same. Then, to maybe lower the cooldown of a skill, players can spec a bit into skill haste, which is currently kept at 60%, however, to be honest, it should be kept at somewhere around 40% and have all the values on gear lowered as well. And skill haste in combination with talents such as triage or strike back, those should be the only thing in the game to affect the skill cooldowns. This way, people can't just spam heals or cannot just spam Seeker Mines over and over again and actually win doing that. The third topic that I want to cover today are the gear stat rolls. I'm also going to try to keep this one very short, it's not a very complicated problem. Stat rolls on gear are simply not balanced. First it was armor that was mandatory, that was actually because of the first problem that we just talked about, damage resilience. Right now it is health that is mandatory, but it's mandatory for a completely different reason. With the new change to the second week of the PTS, 1 point of stamina gives the player 15 health, and 1 point of electronics gives the player 30 skill power. We have 2 stats here on the knee pads. I know we have more, but we're just gonna look at health and skill power right now. Health rolls come between 11,914 and 14,013, and skill power rolls come between 11,347 and 13,339. What we can do here is divide the health amount by 15 and the skill power amount by 30 to see how much main stats these would provide the player. To which the answer is that a max roll health gives you 934 points worth of stamina, and a maxed out skill power roll gives you only 445 points worth of electronics. For this reason, a health roll is in fact more than twice as good as a skill power roll on the knee pads, and therefore the best way to get a nice balanced build between skill power and toughness is indeed not to spec into stamina and get skill power rolls, but to do it the other way around. Get a lot of electronics and get health rolls on gear. That is how I managed to get this insane amount of skill power on my character while still having relatively a good amount of toughness. If you do this and compare this for every single stat on every single item in the game, which is indeed going to take some time, you will find out the best way to build a character and end up with a best in slot build that, unless you want to spec into something super specific, will always be the thing to go for and nothing else. This is how meta builds are defined. It has been like this every single patch. A fix for this is very, very simple. It is to simply make sure that all of these stat rolls on every single item give the player the same amount of value and stat increase compared to the rest of the rolls. In this case, either lower the health roll on the knee pads to only 6,675 health, or up the skill power to 28,020. What you can of course also do is find a happy medium, but don't make one stat roll so glaringly, obviously more powerful than the other. It makes half of all the stat rolls that you get on gear completely useless. The last thing that I want to mention in this video, and this isn't really my expertise, so to speak, if you can call anything that I say about this game an expertise at all, but it is the sidestepping or strafing, or whatever you want to call it. Simply moving your character from the left to the right really fast using the sidestep animation. Doing this will cause your character to look really funky and appear to be sliding and teleporting around on someone else's screen. That is either because the servers cannot keep up, or for some other reason that I really don't know. Again, this is not my expertise. Either way, I don't really care what the cause is. The only thing that I care about is that they get rid of this. It breaks the game and it allows players to get out of cover unpunished. To give you just an example of how broken this is, if you don't believe me by now, using this sidestep mechanic, I was able to go to the enemy home capture point in Last Stand, capture one of the nodes to deny points to the enemy team, and then I kept strafing around that one objective to avoid dying by bullets from other players. I went full cheese with this. I had a 4-piece nomad, I spec'd into tankiness and heals. I had short bow knee pads, so if they were to try to capture the point themselves, I would just stun them and then kill them. And I just went ham with this. And it usually took 3 or 4 players to spawn next to me for them to eventually be able to take me down. In which case, of course, the rest of my team was easily able to capture the other 2 points on the map and get the score multiplier objectives. Doing this allowed my team to easily win the game every single time. Now let me be very clear, this cannot be a thing. Even if all the previous issues are addressed properly and the game on paper is balanced, this sidestep will still ruin the game if it isn't removed. Because guess what? As long as you can't hit the other players, you can't kill them. And as long as you can't kill them, you cannot capture the objective. Surely, players will not get kills or a high score this way. It will not be a fun experience. But from a purely competitive standpoint, all those things are really irrelevant. If it wins you the game, it wins you the game. And winning by itself is what makes it fun for a lot of people. And that's all that I wanted to talk about for now. Are these the only issues on the PTS? Yeah, you wish, my friend, you wish. But these are the things that need to be addressed first. As I said, they need to be addressed right now on the PTS this patch, and it cannot just be a quick band-aid fix with a new hard cap or a new gimmick here or there. You want this PvP patch to be good? Well then make PvP good. Balance the game. Anyway, I guess I will see you guys later, or like they say in the Netherlands, zie je later.